Today we will review 6th grade math lesson 7.1. This lesson will cover understanding, expressing, and comparing percent ratios. Here's your I can statement. I can convert ratios to percents by applying one strategy, and I can explain my solution to others. Let's review some vocabulary for today. Our key vocabulary word is percent. So I encourage you to write down these in a notebook. So if we have percent, if we look at the suffix is the prefix is per, and the suffix is cent, which means out of 100. Think of century, that's 100 years. Centipede, that's an insect with 100 legs. And you have cent, that's 100 pennies. So per cent means out of 100. Also, we need to remember that percent is a part to whole ratio. So a percent is a ratio, let's always want to remember that compares a number to 100. And remember, like I said, it means out of 100. It is represented by the symbol here, percent. You can convert a ratio into a percent by dividing the two numbers in the ratio and then multiplying by 100. So let's look at this as one strategy here. So this is one strategy. I can convert a ratio into percent by dividing the two numbers in the ratio. So I'm dividing them, 30 divided by 100, and then I get 30 hundredths. And 30 hundredths equals 30% because I'm going to multiply that by 100. So let's look at the steps here. And then I'm going to also teach you a second strategy. Okay, let's look at the first strategy here. Step 1, step 2, and step 3. On a quiz, Jasmine got 22 out of 25 questions correct. So the 22 is your part, and the 25 questions is your whole. What was her score as a percent? So we need to write a ratio. Again, this is a part-whole ratio. Second step, divide the two numbers in the ratio. So 22 divided by 25 is 88 hundredths. Whenever we see a fraction, that line means we're going to divide. Step 3 is I need to multiply by 100 because percent means out of 100 and write it as a percent. So 88 hundredths times 100 is 88 or 88%. Jasmine scored 88% on her quiz. Then here's a second strategy where we can use equivalent ratios. So I start out with my part whole. My part whole is 22 out of 25. And then I need to ask myself if it needs to be out of 100, because percent means out of 100. What would I multiply 25 to get out of 100? 25 times what was 104? So then what I do to the denominator, I must do to the numerator, and 22 times 4 is 88. So 88 over 100, that means out of 100, that would be the percent. Excuse me. All right, let's try a few of these on your own. I encourage you to stop this video and complete these problems on your own first and then review with me. If you would like to see some of these problems, they are available on your homework, page 211. Excuse me. Okay, question 1. The ratio of an oak tree to maple trees. So we're comparing oak to maple. And we're comparing that, and in the park, that ratio is 6:4. So I know that I have oak trees are 6, maple trees are 4, and the total amount would be 10 trees. What percent of the trees in the park are oak trees? Well, I know this is a part-whole relationship because they're asking what percent are oak. So this question is asking me only about the oak trees. So I need to go back into the problem, and it says oak trees are 6 out of 10. And I need it to be out of 100 to be a percent. So 10 times what is 100? 10 times 10 is 100. What I do to the denominator, I must do to the numerator. 6 times 10 is 60. So that is 60% of the trees are oak. Let's go down to the next one. The ratio of students to adults. So in this problem, I am comparing students to adults in a community is 47 to 53. So I know I have students are 47, adults are 53, and the total people in the band is 100. What percent of the band are students? So we only need to find out the students. So we start out with our part-whole relationship, our ratio here, and we want students. So students are 47 over 100. And because it's already out of 100, 47 over 100 is out of 100, then we know the students make up 40% of the band are students. Okay, question 3. On a necklace of 150 beads, so we know that's the total amount. 72 of the beads are glass, and 78 of the beads are ceramic. What percent of the beads are glass? So we know that we have glass is 72, ceramic is 78, and then the total is 150. So I can do glass over the total. $72 over 150, and then I can go ahead and divide that, which is 4,800s, and I multiply that times 100, and I get 48, which is 48%. Now write each number as a percent below. I want to just review that we can use place value here on the decimals. So on question 5 and 6, we want to go back to our place value understanding, where we have tens, ones, tenths, and hundredths. So remember, if I have 57 hundredths, I can write that as 57 hundredths as a fraction. And if that's out of 100, then I know that's 57%. Again, write 42 hundredths in your place value chart. And because that's 42 hundredths, I can then just say it out loud and write that as a fraction. 42 hundredths, that's out of 100, so I know that's 42%. If I have a fraction and I see the denominator can be a factor of 100, I say, look at the denominator's 20. 20 times what equals 100? So I know that if I multiply 20 times 5, that would be 100. So my strategy is trying to get the denominator to 100, so I could say it's a percent, which is out of 100. What I do to the denominator, I must do to the numerator. 3 times 5 is 15, so 15 hundredths is 15%. Again, I'm going to look at my denominator here, which is 2, and I want it out of 100. So 2 times 50 is 100. What I do to the denominator, I must do to the numerator. So 7 times 50 is 350. So I know that's 350%. This is our lesson for Module 7, Lesson 2, Grade 6.